me. Let's try to keep this love together. It might bring out something real.
Welcome to Coupling with the Carlins. Your host for the show is Marion Carlin and
Tia, also known as Tite by my bae. Thank you for joining us today.
we're going to have an amazing show.
We're going to talk about love, and mastering the art of coupling in your relationship. You are listening to Coupling with the Carlins.
Hey everybody, what's happening out there? How's everybody doing?
What's happening? It's Friday. Another Friday.
It's Friday. Can you believe it?
I can believe it.
We're back. You're listening to Coupling with the Carlins, KBOB 89.9 FM, Black on Black Community Radio, live streaming 24/7, KBOB899.com. We appreciate all of you tuning in for another Friday with Coupling with the Carlins. So, Tia, no problem. How are you doing today?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm doing really, really good. Doing good. Tell me, how has your week been this week?
Exhausting.
I understand. It's been exhausting.
Yes.
And what's been most exhausting about it?
Just lots of things. Just lots of exhaustion. So
I understand.
In full recuperation mode. If I had my druthers, I'd probably sleep for the next 24 hours. But since that's not feasible.
It's not. We have it's been a trying week, most definitely. Can you tell me how outside of exhausting, how are you doing? You're just today.
I'm doing well.
Well, that's good. Tell me what's good. Tell me something that's good. Tell the listeners something that's good out there.
We're here on our show, ready to talk about exciting topics, which we have an outline for.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just always ready and happy to do more coaching and teaching with our listeners. So
yes.
Yeah, that's good. How are you?
I'm doing. This week's been trying, I must say. It's been trying. I'm doing okay. I'm blessed. I'm happy. Let's wave at the listeners today. Hey everybody, thank you for tuning in. Let me see here. I've got to make one little adjustment real quick. All right, here we go. Okay. So this week's been a little bit difficult. We've had some challenges, absolutely, with family. We've had some challenges just with ourselves. But you know what? Life is life. It's not good. It's not bad. It's just life. Absolutely. You guys can reach us.
Well, there's good times and bad times, and that's just life. So, there are definite good times and bad times. You can tell the difference,
right,
when you're happy and when you're not happy. But
yes,
all of those are included in the recipe of life. So, all in all, that's how you have to look at it.
Yeah, we come in this, we come ready and prepared. We read, we write, we file every single day on relationship. We teach here at the Carlin Coupling Code, and you're coupling with the Carlins. We teach, rekindling, restoring, and retaining more love in your marriage and relationship. And today I was just thinking about all of the body of work that we do with couples and what we want to contribute to couples and them having, better relationship. We've been at this for such a long period of time. I don't think it ever gets boring. It stays constantly challenging because to do this body of work, to help other couples, to be transparent with ourselves, with what we're going through and what life is throwing to us, we try to applicate and apply, what we learn in our own marriage and relationship. And then we're constantly teaching others how to do the same. Yeah. And I was thinking about the things that we, what we do and
just
how,
because
how we
better
do that
doesn't mean you do better. So, it's like, we all know people that are in their profession and they still struggle with different things. one ironic thing that I used to, not used to, but one ironic thing is when I was a young person,
Mhm.
I had a doctor,
Mhm.
and the doctor was telling me about how to keep myself healthy. This is when I was young and just healthy anyway.
Yeah, I
but
understand.
just how to maintain my health. And as I left the doctor's office, I
Mhm.
saw him in the back of the parking lot smoking a cigarette, which
Yeah.
doesn't disqualify him
Nope.
as a good doctor.
Nope.
It makes
Nope.
him human.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. So that was my analogy on that. So sometimes you know what it is to do, but
Mhm.
actually following through with that can be difficult, and it's something you have to train and
Mhm.
teach yourself
Mhm.
and build the muscle and the muscle memory
Mhm.
and the habits
Mhm.
and behaviors that will then follow what it is that you're trying to achieve in the relationship.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I was, being relation in your marriage and in your relationship, it's kind of like, that you want it to get to a place where it could be on automatic pilot, but in order for it to get to that place, there's so much effort that goes into programming like an airplane. And when
Mhm.
you're on the air, and when you're flying in the air, and pilots have automatic pilot for some genius reason, but there's the work that's been put into that for the plane to be able to keep the right altitude and the right destination and navigation and all of those things. There's been a lot of diligent work put into that, and that's how we try as hard as we want and we desire to give you guys Carlin Coupling Code keys every single Friday for your relationship to be on automatic pilot, for it to be at a place where you're listening to this, you're listening to Coupling with the Carlins, and we just inspire just to really give you guys a real solid nuggets that would not only just be great for date night, but it would be great throughout the week, throughout the month, that you would come back and listen to us again and giving you real keys that would help your marriage and relationship. We've had couples on talking about love. We've given several shows and what it takes to have intimacy and attunement and atonement. And I was reading some of the curriculum that we've made in just the Carlin Coupling Code. You guys can reach us at Facebook at Carlin Coupling Code. Feel free to message us, and we appreciate you guys messaging us and texting us. You can call in if there's an issue in your relationship that you just want to call in and take the CCC challenge or the CCC discovery, or ask us a question. You guys can dial in at 918-856-3873. And we would be more than happy to, just expound on our level of expertise in helping you attune and atone in your marriage and relationship. I was looking and just going through the curriculum and everything to you. And I read this a long time ago with just what we do in the Carlin Coupling Code, but I wanted to read it again so that the listeners could just understand the methodology and how we operate and what we choose and what we committed to this body of work and what we formulated together. It states the Carlin Coupling Code is a foolproof, comprehensive, systematic method of behaviors and instructional guide of behaviors which helps couples intrinsically cultivate mentally, physically, and spiritually more intimacy and rekindling, restoring, and retaining more love in their marriage and relationship through key exercises with their spouses and significant others. We have formulated, exercises that makes your relationship or can make your relationship more valuable and more intrinsic in attuning and atoning. You can reach us, and we're committed to the process at, Carlin Coupling Code at Facebook. You can reach us at carlincouplingcode.com, and you can reach us at carlincouplingcode@gmail.com. You guys can find us. And so today, we just wanted not only just to have, a guest, and we appreciate you guys listening and tuning in every single week, but we wanted to give you some fundamental, some Carlin Coupling Code keys and how you can make your relationship better. People are listening to us, people are reaching out, people are hurting in relationship, people are wanting relationship, people are struggling in relationship, and people are still desiring and having hope for relationship. If you're in a relationship and your relationship is not where you want it to be, I believe that if there's not some serious physical, emotional, and mental abuse happening and other things that would cause the demise of the relationship, if you're just wanting just to get your relationship back on the right track.
Both people.
Yeah, if both people, yeah. Definitely. If you're wanting to get it on the right track again, I can say this, and I know Tia can say this, that there's hope. If you're willing to have the desire to implement a better marriage and relationship, and you're willing to work for it, there's hope. Absolutely.
I believe that we aspire to inspire. And I think that that's something that you want to carry into not only your romantic relationships, but all of your relationships where you're really aspiring to be a real inspiration to someone. You're wanting to be uplifting. You're wanting to be supportive. You're wanting to have them reach their own personal growth or their and being able to do that in a way that doesn't come across as commanding or demanding, critical, judgmental, and being able to deliver that from really a heart space. And I believe that when you do deliver that, you have to really make sure that you're coming from a heart space. So there's things you have to ask yourself before you reach out to inspire someone. When you aspire to inspire. So that's
what would you say, real quick, some of those questions might be that you might be willing to ask yourself?
Okay. Well, one would be, what is the intention of me giving this encouragement? Am I trying to bring out the best in who they are as a person and more of who they be, rather than trying to make the relationship work for me, opposed to work for the both of us?
Work for the we instead of the me?
Yes. And that we, that we can be any relationship. We all have different types of relationships on different levels of intimacy.
So true.
But we always want to come from a place of love and inspiration. And just like my mother used to say, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything.
I wish that we had that level of discipline, but most of the time we, in a situation and relationship where it gets intense, you've got your own negative behavioral habits, you have your own genesis of identity, you have these beliefs, and you know that certain things shouldn't be said, but for some reason, I don't know, when conflict happens, Tourette of the mouth happens, and you end up speaking what you may feel. There may be some truth to what you're feeling. However, in that negative connotation, it may not be serving the relationship. Yes. So we always state, and we say this over and over, that love is restraint. And in that restraint, it's like, golly, when as men, when we do that and it happens, that's a conversation, guys, that's going to happen. It may not happen in that moment, but I guarantee you that's a conversation that's going to happen again.
Yes.
Women and men are just different, and I thank God that we're different in how we process information. It's different. How we show love is different.
Yes.
How we show compassion, understanding, support is different, and how we want the desires of, what as men, what we feel as love is different from what women feel what love would be. But I do know this, or know, but that love conquers a multitude of sins. That's what the Bible says.
Absolutely. So, as much as we know that love is restraint, and we've said that's the basic surface level, but we also know that love is also so many other things. And I think our topic today is love definitely is respect.
Love is respect. Yes. Absolutely.
Or respect is an aspect.
Yeah, respect is an aspect of love. For the most part, most men, want respect. And we kind of demand it, we try to stand in it, we try to make it happen. And for the most part, we always feel like we're never receiving the respect that we feel like we deserve for most men. If you talk to most men, and we talk to a lot of men, we talk to a lot of women, one of the issues for men, it's like, she doesn't respect me. She's very disrespectful. So my question to challenge myself and we as men is, are we showing enough respect for our wives and significant others?
Absolutely.
Are we aware of the respect that we may not be giving as much as we want respect? Because there's a lot of power in respect. There's a lot of admiration and respect. There's a lot of discipline and respect. There's a lot of continuity. If you think about, father figure, in a home, and as children, sometimes we challenge mom all kinds of ways, and in a dual parent setting, and there's a lot of settings where kids and children are not growing up with both parents. But when you do have a male dominant figure in the family, the only thing that the
or
mom
a
has
leader,
or a leader
we'll
in
say
the
a
family,
leader.
significant
It doesn't
other,
have to be so
right,
dominant
right.
per se.
right. I appreciate you,
Especially,
right?
And no woman wants to feel like she's in a relationship with a man that is dominating, because that's not love and care. That's
love
not
and
the
care.
lead position
Mm-hmm.
in a relationship. To lead is not to dominate.
No. To lead, actually, Maxwell talks about, is when you're really showing a real sense of leadership. Leadership is to make sure that everybody finishes before you. It's like the care of everyone else is more important than your own need and care.
And from my own just background and management in the past, my view of leadership, or one aspect of leadership, is really knowing all of the people that you're managing well enough, and getting to know them and know their strengths and where they can really shine. Knowing their strengths, putting them in setting them up for success, rather than setting them up in a challenge that you don't think they'll meet, to only bring something out for you to have the ability to criticize what it is that they don't want. So I really think it's very important to not approach managing something with a covert intention, and being very direct in what it is that you want to achieve. So you always want to bring out the best in people. You want people to blossom and grow. And anytime you want someone to blossom and grow, then you have to be able to give them the freedom to find their own revelation, I would say. So yes.
When I first met you, I remember stating that, God gave you a voice, and it was really time to be heard for you to evolve completely into. And you've always had a tremendous voice, and you've always been powerful in everything you wanted to touch, move, and inspire. But there's a blossoming to that's very enriching when a husband and a significant other and a man can attune with his wife and allow that to happen. It is a real desire. However, for the most part, this is some of the places where men just seem to miss that, and allowing enough attunement to happen where there can be leadership from a significant other, being your wife or your spouse, and then leadership coming from his aspect too, where that needs to be a level of respect that's there at the same time,
where it's a partnership rather than a hierarchy. I think all of us, especially when you've been raising children, raising children always takes precedent generally in the family dynamic, because children have immediate needs.
Yes.
So we have to meet those immediate needs. And as adults and parents to children, we get in the habit of speaking, behaving, and everything as if a parent, the way you speak and treat a child is very different than your spouse wants to be told and treated.
Yeah, true.
And, true. At the same time, we also when we do guide our kids, we do it with grace, because we're coming from a place of knowing that they're innocent or inexperienced, or it's a place of ignorance, not negative ignorance, but ignorance, naivete.
Just not knowing.
So we want to make sure that when we shift gears and having that dialogue with our partner or significant other, that we are definitely making sure that we are not approaching it in a way that is commanding, demanding, judgmental, shaming, critical, overbearing, insensitive, and just, all of the things that no one wants to feel back. We want to feel like everyone wants to feel like they're in a team
Most
and that
definitely.
they're part of that team and they have a voice in that, and that that can come together, and there's resolution to be had in that, which is emotional resolution.
Yeah.
Yes.
With what you were just stating about the intimacy, right, of being able to be inspiring and making an emotional adjustment to for hence a better word of just being able to be at a place where what you're trying to give your spouse is there's more affirmation than enough negativity, where that they feel like that you're making a bid, but the bid is done incorrectly, so they can't really hear what you're saying because the attempt feels so bad they can't hear it, anything else.
Absolutely.
And for men, we just tend not to get this so right. We know how to mow a yard. We know how to create tasks around the house, or just tasks, period. We want to come in and be the savior and fix things. But this is something that's so sensitive to approaching your wife and the significant other, that we're trying to help a situation, or we're trying to prevent a situation. We're trying to not even create the situation. However, for the most part, how we communicate that, it just doesn't land the way our heart feels and what our communication and what our words are saying. It doesn't land that way, where we don't give enough, I guess, with the verbiage, enough permission for a woman to feel safe enough to be able not only just to hear us, but to be able to embrace what we're saying and then really feel good about it. And Gottman talks about, building these roadmaps. So, I was saying a couple minutes ago that when, you do have a significant other or a male figure in the house, and the children tend to act up, the only thing that you have to say is, I'm just going to tell your dad, I'm just going to tell Jerry, or I'm just going to tell whomever. And then there's a part of that that has a nip in the bud, like, there's going to be a consequence to something, because mothers and wives are just such nurturers that, the capacity to be able to do that. And I'm not saying that wives cannot, single mothers do not put it down and handle raising all these sons and daughters and everything, and working more than one job, and doing it more than well. Yet there is a nuance to it, where when you do have that type of scenario, there is something that lends to that creates some kind of ease. And then I was thinking, with that level of ease, is just like, what is your, the topic of, understanding and having more respect in your relationship. What is your relationship hustle? Like, what are you willing to contribute in the hustle of creating what it is that you want to create for your marriage and relationship to begin to flow? And then as we were reading, writing, and filing about, you want
to hustle so you can flow.
Right.
Because your goal is to flow.
Your goal is to flow. So the relationship hustle is to be aware of, what is it that I would like to create that would contribute to what it is that I want. And so one of the, things that I think is interesting about just respect and men needing so much respect is that if we were to flip that, flip the coin and be on the tail side and not just the head side, what would it look like to give that kind of respect to your wife? One thing that we, studied is that respect always sees through the good and it learns to accept the bad, right? It always sees through to the good and it learns to accept the bad. So, think about it like this, ladies and gents, if there's something that is amazing about your wife and your significant other, we are so easily programmed to remember things that haphazardly just we dislike and we don't like. We do it automatic. We just do that naturally. That things that are displeasing to us, we can just hold on to those things. Remember accurately the date, the time, the place, the where, everything. What happens when... Because
the emotional imprint on pain is so different than the emotional imprint on
pleasure.
Joy.
Yeah, on joy.
So, so people, happy times don't put you in a traumatic situation. You don't have PTSD from happiness.
No.
It's trauma. So we have to be very careful about what we're depositing into one another, because whatever you put in, you will get out.
Boy. And then in men just being, responsible for that. I have to hold men accountable The Bible says that, we are not the tail, but we're the head.
Mhm.
And for men being the head of the household, there's a responsibility that we must continue to create for our wives and significant others with the emotional vibration, the spiritual vibration, the physical vibration. It doesn't matter what we're receiving. It really doesn't matter. What matters is what we're giving out of what we're not receiving and doing it diligently,
Or what
doing
you
it out of
think you're
love.
not receiving.
Yeah, or what you think you're not receiving. Most men know what they're not receiving, just like most women know in relationship what they're not receiving. However, that, in order for that to be done, it's important that we
I have to challenge that.
You can.
Because to say that we know
Absolutely.
what we're not receiving,
Mhm.
there's so many times where people just aren't aware that they are receiving the things that they don't think they're receiving. We all the time, I say, challenge that belief.
Mhm.
If you say, especially in absolutes, you never, you always, you should, I wish, all of
Yeah.
those things.
But this is what we do, though.
Yes.
That's what we do. Even though we know that we shouldn't do it, that's what we do.
Right. So it's I lost my train of thought. Go ahead, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
That's just what we do. We know we shouldn't use always and never, but out of habit, it's so interesting that that's still what we operate in. You always. This is what happens when gridlock happens. You point the finger. You do the use. Please chime in if you. Yeah.
So I think you should challenge what it is that you're not receiving. It's so easy to say, I don't feel like you're respecting me. But there's always more respect than what you actually perceive. You're
Mhm.
always getting more
That's
of
good.
what you want than what you really think,
Mhm.
because we focus on what we're not getting
All the time.
rather than what we are getting.
With that being said, and that is so true.
Mm-hmm.
You can call me out on it. That is absolutely so true. There's things that I receive from you all the time that, in my own blind spots, I'm not noticing.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you think, in our topic, and we're talking about love, admiration, we're talking about the power and respect of what your marriage should look like, and men respecting women as much as we want respect. How do you facilitate that? Like, if your spouse is bringing you something that you're benefiting from it, and you don't even know that it's happening, and they're trying to communicate that it's happening, but you really can't see it. You're too busy focusing on, this is what you're not doing.
Yes.
But there's so many things that are happening, that they are operating in. How do you create that conversation where they can actually feel and attune with you,
Mm-hmm.
that, you can have an aha moment where it's like, yes, I wasn't seeing that. And that's, most of the time, that's what both the spouse and significant other, what they're trying to do all the time.
Yes.
They're trying to get to, do you understand what I'm trying to share?
Yes. I think one major pitfall that couples have in relationships is when they're engaging in conversation to get, or to aspire to get to, a resolve, because we always have to know that when someone brings something up, there's something that they're asking for. So I think it's very important that when you are in the midst of communication, that we're really practicing active listening, that we're practicing real, just attuning.
Mhm.
We're listening, we're attuned,
Mhm.
we're not thinking about what we're going to say next. We're not thinking about the interjection. We're not processing what it is. And
That's
because
good.
there's so many times when one person will say, and we see this over and over again,
Yes.
one person will bring a bid or something that they're displeased with in the dynamic of their relationship. So that person brings that to their partner.
Mhm.
And as soon as that's said, they say, I can see that, or maybe nothing at all, and go directly to, and this is what's going on. This is where I'm not being, these are the needs I'm not getting. And when we do that, it's like it's tennis. It's back and forth, and nothing is ever really being discussed or talked about. When your partner brings you a bid, you have to know that that's a bid for communication and love. So it's so important for
Mhm.
that person to feel like what it is that subject matter is
Mhm.
actually discussed
Mhm.
before we jump to, well, what you're not doing or what it
Mhm.
is that I need.
Yes.
We
K
have
to the
to attend.
J. Yeah, I agree. K to the J. She always says that I'm coming to you because I want to build a bridge. Helen
yes.
K to the J, they say that. Pastor Rich and Pastor Brenda, they always say in order to do that, be the redeemer. Be the redeemer. We say, with the Carlin Coupling Code, we want to attune and atone.
Yes.
Attuning is the feeling part,
Mhm.
and the atonement is the level of forgiveness part.
Yes.
And in order to do that, I wish that couples could get to, and we're still mastering this ourselves, a place where there could be ease for the bid, Tia.
Mhm.
There could be a real desire that the bid is placed, and what all couples want is when you're hurting or you're paining or you have desire, what you really want when you give that to your spouse and significant other is you want a hug and you just want it to be met. That's it.
Yes.
You really want it to be met.
Yes.
That's all you want. You don't want to hear anything else. Here's the bid.
You want to be
meet the
heard.
right? You want to be heard.
You want to be empathized with.
You do.
You want to be understood.
Right? But this is how we communicate it, though.
Mhm.
We don't really communicate it well anyway. Like,
What do you mean?
Well, I mean,
Explain that
okay,
to me, please.
we just struggle with
Who is
men and
Okay,
women, but let
thank
me
you.
call out men. We struggle with communication.
Mhm.
We don't necessarily struggle with getting orders or taking orders, but we struggle with communication and expressing our levels of emotion. Men just are lacking. Even those that are more attuned with emotional intelligence than others are still lacking. So when you're wanting to make that level of a bid, period, I don't know why we do it this way, but this is how couples do it. Stop doing this. I don't like it when you do this. I can't stand it when you do this. You make me sick. This is how we communicate.
Mhm.
Respect is, we're talking about the
I call
the-
that
the nuances.
communication intimidation.
right. Well, in that, and the topic of today's discussion is within that is a level of attunement with respecting your spouse and significant other, where men can really respect, your wives in order to be able to hear them and what they're trying to tell you, even when they're saying, stop doing that, that makes me sick.
So I'll ask you, what isn't respectful? Let's start with what
Wow.
is not respectful
Well,
opposed to what is respectful.
Okay. Well, there's a lot of, things where, issues where men just feel disrespected. Number one, being yelled at. Number one, being called out of. Number two, being called out of your name. Number three, being put down in front of others. Number four,
That's how men feel, or do women feel these
No.
disrespected
I'm
in
only,
the same
yes,
way?
I want you to take that because
Okay.
you're Tite,
No,
you're a woman.
I'm asking.
I'm only
I'm
stepping, I'm
asking.
only walking listening to my blue headphones, and I'm walking in my shoes with just how men feel disrespected and what that looks like, because we desire that so much. I wish we could give more respect and the level of attunement to our wives and significant others as much as we're demanding so much of it.
Yes.
So we're always, why did you say that? Or, we feel disrespected when we have a good idea, or we're excited to share with our wives and significant other. And then all of a sudden it's just like, well, Jerry, did you think about this? And we're like, can you be with me in the moment that I'm thinking that this may even be a possibility, where I'm excited about something, kind of just, wanting what that feels like, that motherly love, like we can do anything,
Yes.
and desiring that and wanting that from our wives and
I'm
significant
so
others.
glad that you said motherly love, because women especially feel, and I think men would feel this too. I'm going to speak for men in the same way. There's the nurturing aspect that we would want that is exampled from a parental figure. So we know what nurturing looks like: nurturing from a father, nurturing from a male role model, a woman, a mother, a female role model. We want that kind of nurturing, but what we don't want, what neither partner wants, is to feel like they're in a parent-child relationship. No one wants to feel like they're being spoken to like a child, treated like a child, assumed as if they don't know things as if they were a child.
Right.
And that's very important. There's so many times that things happen and disagreements happen, and you don't even know that what has been said, what has been put in is actually making you step. You don't even know that your partner is actually stepping further away from you. And they're making these small little steps away from you. And then the other person looks up and says, "Where did you go? Where did you go? Where did you go?" You said, "Well, you saw me backing away. I brought this so many times. I've wanted this so many times." But in the way in which it was not heard, understood, I've had to step away, because innately we're all just on a human level, we are going to be in survival mode first.
Absolutely.
And when you're not cultivating enough love and respect in a relationship, you get in a self-protective
mode, I call it.
A self-protective mode. So in that self-protection, you'll back away, you'll no longer engage, you'll no longer express your opinion. So I really challenge men to think about, is the woman in your life, is she still as open with you as she was when you first started the relationship? Does she confide in you? Does she bring you what's hurting her? And when you start to look at that and you say, no, that's not happening as much, you have to really ask yourself and wonder, be inquisitive enough to go to her and say, why don't you feel comfortable bringing that to me anymore? I want to have that softness with you. I want you to feel, because when we're not turning towards each other, when anytime you're not turning towards one another, it's not effective to the relationship. And when that happens so many times, a person turns away, and that's where we get into emotional affairs. But I won't even go so far as to say affairs, but
that's good.
Looking outside for emotional intimacy.
Yeah, that's good.
And that's not even necessarily with someone of the opposite sex. That could be a woman going to get her emotional needs met by girlfriends, activities, spending,
working out,
just anything that will bring her pleasure. So when you
going out to eat.
when you have someone and you're saying, so many people say, oh, this person has changed. It's like, what is the contribution in the change? What has really brought about this change? Where is this really going? Where has this person possibly not felt like they can bring something to me?
I think that was all of that was like rich. Like, what can this person bring to me? What can your spouse and significant other bring to you? And the spouse and significant other are supposed to be, looking at each other. But what I have experienced, or what we have experienced, is even in sometimes looking at you, each spouse, the male and female, are looking at one another, and they know that. However, they're not walking towards each other. They're slowly looking at each other, and they're taking steps backwards. So to add to what you're saying is like, where did you go? A lot of distance it's not where did you go? It's, with my take on it is how did this happen? How did this Grand Canyon become in between us? Because I'm in pain.
And that's where the gender role comes in.
They're in pain, right? And then you're looking at each other.
Men never see it coming. Never see it coming.
Oh, no.
But there's not a woman in a relationship that doesn't know it's happening.
Oh, I agree with that 100%, because I've seen it. I've witnessed it. We've coached it. I'm a man, and it's even my own blind spot putting myself out there, that's something that we have to have no ego to it, to be aware that that's something that we don't want. We don't want that. It's an ugly place. It's just ugly. That whole feeling of being alone is just ugly. Single men, you're listening. If those of you that are in a marriage and relationship that are listening to me right now, listening to Tia right now, you're in your relationship. You know what that feels like. Move all of that to the side and make a determination that you're going to go for love, admiration, peace, patience, and forgiveness, and some level of restoration, and respecting your wife and significant other to want to, you want to cover her in a way that she's never been covered before, a new level of discovery. Is it going to be easy? Is she even going to buy into that? Probably not. But with a commitment, time is going to be on your side.
Well, with you continually making those attempts, because what trust is consistent behavior over and over again, so that bid isn't something that's going to happen one time. That's something that you're going to have to chip away at, because what has been built, what you didn't build it overnight, it's not going to come down overnight. So it's the perseverance and just like you were saying, the hustle to get to the flow.
The hustle to get to the flow. Respect sees through the good, and it learns to accept the bad. Respect teaches us, right?
I think it appreciates the bad.
Or accepts the bad, appreciates the bad, or appreciates, what is challenging to you. I'll say it that way. What is challenging? And that could be just anything from a sock being on the floor, a towel being on the floor, a cabinet not being closed, toothpaste not being put on just any little crazy little, level of acceptance. But there's so much that's happening at the same time, man. Women, there's so many things that your husband and significant, they're operating in that's happening at the same time, that there's a lot of good that's going on in the marriage and relationship. And the longer that you fall in love, you deal with life. Life is just life. It's not good or it's not bad. You go through trials and tribulations. You forget when you first meet somebody how easy it is to be in love, and how easy the attunement feels, and how easy the atonement and the acceptance feels. But as you go through life, that begins to be challenging, because you learn a person, you go through things, you experience things, and you're trying to think about, where is the love with all of these challenges that have taken place. And then on top of that, all of these little pet peeves that have taken place that you're like, these are the things that I just don't like. I don't like. And so respecting your spouse and significant other, it teaches you to value your significant other and have enough patience, and especially towards your partner. Like men, we need to really respect our wives as much as we want respect, to allow them to feel that we have enough patience with them, especially towards their emotions and their feelings. Sometimes, men can just operate in such a place of empowerment when we do more and we say less, and we're just comforting. It's not necessarily, what we say, it's how we say it, and we behave in that level of acceptance. Another one I think that we were studying, it states that, and experts state this, and we believe in this, that respect allows more tolerance. Even when both of you have already grown apart, love can be reminded to each other if you both have respect for one another.
Yes.
A real level of, you came into my life for a reason. You came into my children's life for a reason. You came into my parents' life for a reason, my siblings for a reason. You came into my life, and when you did come into my life, you transformed my life in so many aspects of what is amazing about you, that your spouse and significant other, what they've added. We can easily focus on what's the challenge and what seems to be, what seems to be taken away, or what seems to be, the inertia of just being frustrated with all of that. But what's been really given to you by your spouse and significant other, and what's the level of respect that you really want to allow in having enough comfort for your spouse and significant other? What does that really feel like, and what does it look like, and what's the topography, the emotional topography of that, and how you want your marriage and relationship to flow?
I really think it's important that when we find ourselves complaining about what it is that we don't like, we actually even challenge the complaint and the feeling as to where it's even coming from.
That's good.
Challenge the belief. Just because you were raised thinking something does not make it true.
Yeah.
Just because,
absolutely,
we're always, think about it in this regard. If you were to model your marriage after the way your father was as a husband, or the way your mother was as a wife, let's think of the fact of however old you are, things have evolved. Society has evolved.
Most
People
definitely.
have evolved.
Yes.
Expectations have evolved.
Tolerance.
Emotional intelligence, the level of information that's out there, what works. We don't have the stability that older relationships had, or older generations of relationships had,
Mhm.
because they didn't have the options.
That's good.
They didn't see what possibly they could have. When you don't have a better option,
Mhm.
you live in it.
Boy.
But when we're evolving and we say, I liked this, I like that, I like this, but some of those things you have to be willing to discard. There's not a woman alive who wants to be married to her father.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a woman alive.
Repeat that.
There is not a woman alive. As much as a woman loves her father, I loved my father.
Yes.
I would not want him to be my husband.
Yes. Amen.
I
Amen.
do. That's a parent-child relationship.
And no man really wants that.
Yes.
No man really
yes.
wants that, T.
Yes. So I really find that to be the case a lot of times with men when they find that their wife or significant other no longer wants to be sexual.
Yeah.
A lot of times that has to do with the dynamic being created where they feel either dominated or they might feel not heard, not appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of those things turn into, I feel parented. I feel as if you're trying to grow and change me, and I'm an adult person.
Mm-hmm. It lands from, boy, that's deep. That hits me right between my eyes, because this is something that men just, we don't want to behave this way. We don't want it to land this way. We're wanting to prevent something.
Mm-hmm.
We're wanting to prevent. Men, well, for the most part, we're always trying to protect our family.
Mm-hmm.
We're definitely trying to protect our wives. And wives, they do know that to a lot of extremes.
But
however,
protection can come across as control.
Protection can come, it can come across as control. Protection can come across as dominating. Protection can come across as being insensitive. There's a lot of things to just the way that men are and what we're wanting to operate in and what we desire, because we love our family so much.
Mm-hmm.
And then it can also come across as, being parental.
Yes.
And that's not something that we want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a shame that this is something that we tend to do. And then we're just dimming our wives and significant others. We're dimming the light. And then we're looking up and we're wanting romance, and we're figuring out, well, how in the heck can I have romance now when, she's saying I have a headache, or I'm not interested, or the hug, and here's a real sign. The hugs stop, guys. The kisses on the cheek, they stop. The holding hand stops. A woman will give you all kinds of signs in what's happening when she's not really feeling real attunement. She can be a very like you can see the sensitivity and quickly nonverbal, but you can see the affection and the sensitivity that she may have for others. And you're looking at that and you're like, well, God, where is that for myself?
Yes.
Because men, you know what? We need that. We absolutely need touch, or we need just a hug, or just an attaboy. And then you're wanting that so desperately and fighting for that so desperately and receiving it barely any, and then trying to overcome and feeling more alone and feeling destitute and feeling emotionally like misunderstood, when that's not what you want to create. So the solution to that would be completely to look inward and begin to create another roadmap of what does that look like. And here's the key, man. Regardless of how she's responding or how she's even reacting, you have to walk those footsteps with gentle precision. You've got to walk back those gentle footsteps with the level of discipline, regardless to how the topography, up and high, high and low, up and down, how it changes. It doesn't matter, because you're wanting and desiring that, but you're also walking in it to build a belief.
Dr. Phil, I remember when I used to watch Dr. Phil in the 90s, he would say, men would say, well, how long do I do this? How long do I continue to make these bids? How long do I continue to do all of these things for my wife or significant other to then respond in the way in which she wants to have this intimacy with me? And Dr. Phil would always say, you do it until you stay on that path until, because women are very, 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 we have a very long memory.
Precise.
very long. It goes
accurate.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I don't know how accurate it is. It's long,
pretty.
and
It's
a
pretty
emotional,
accurate.
emotional memory.
And what
So,
you all remember emotionally, it's pretty freaking accurate.
so I think that a man that when he has to do it until and once that barrier is really broken
Mhm.
down, I think he has a full opportunity to regain
Mhm.
that closeness and intimacy, and always see the small improvements. There's always
That's good.
something chipping away. There's always something that is improving, and hold on to those improvements so you can then stay in the game.
Why do you
stay in the
think-
hustle so you
Yeah.
can get to the flow.
So exactly. Why do you think that for the most part, when that desire from which a man wants from a woman, he wants her heart back?
Hmm.
Why do you think that when that is displayed or it does happen, there's some kind of trauma that
Mhm.
happens when he behaves that way that she believes again?
Hmm.
Wouldn't it be, the question is, what, as far as men, and I'm in my own level of discovery here, thinking about men and all the men that we coach, what do you think that a man could create outside of that? Outside of trauma, outside of, oh my God, help me, like, right, and here we are getting ready to come to the rescue. What do you think we could create that we could, walk in that to create, to shorten the distance? If we could, we may not be able to do it because you just have to walk it out. It's understanding that level of, coming to that level of comprehension where something could be, something could be had to create
It's
it.
tenderness.
Mhm.
It's gentleness. It's
Which
kindness.
would look like, for the men, it would look like what, for the men out there listening?
It would look like tenderness, gentleness, listening, active listening,
Mm-hmm.
active listening,
Mhm.
active listening,
Mhm.
active listening.
Yeah, okay, active listening. Okay. okay.
Not the kind of listening that when
Yeah.
something is said, the response then
Yes, hand
comes
me the
back
remote.
as if
Yeah.
you didn't hear anything that was said.
Mm-hmm.
There's also another thing that I think that men can find themselves in the entrapment
Mhm.
of. It's taking a conversation and redirecting it into the direction in which they want it to move. So
Mhm.
if a
Now
woman brings you
that's
a
good.
bed and she just wants to talk about that one thing,
Mhm.
just like, let's just tackle this.
Don't put anything
Right.
else in the pot.
Right, exactly. We don't have
Okay.
to hear about what your mom used to do,
Right.
what your aunt said,
Mhm.
and
What
what
book
happened
this came
last
out of.
week,
Mhm.
and just all of these. Because when someone is finding that they feel like they have to be defensive, no one is defensive for no
For no reason. Yeah. Yes.
People are defensive when they've been offended,
Mhm. Or hurt.
which is an offense.
Mhm.
So that defensive place, when you see someone and they're really coming from a defensive place, especially when it's specific to you,
Mhm.
you have to think about, that's when you need to turn inward and say, what have I done that might possibly be offensive? Go to them and say, what are these offenses? Let's talk about them. Another thing I really encourage is don't over talk. You can stay on a subject way too long. Stay on that subject.
Mhm.
Give it a time frame
Mhm.
and let it happen.
Mhm.
And then you can revisit it later.
Mhm.
But there's no way that a person can really pay close attention to something that they're so emotionally invested in,
Mhm.
that lasts 2 hours, and then
Mhm.
they say, well, why is this person no longer really responding? I'm trying to
Right.
talk to them.
Mhm.
Because no one has that level of attention span. No one wants to talk for
wish we
2.5 hours
Right.
about one thing, because it's been diverted in so many different directions. And
Mhm.
now what it started with as, I really would appreciate you picking up my calls, has turned into, why do you hate my dog? And why don't you
Mhm.
call my mother enough?
Mhm.
Because
Yeah.
you're
Or-
pretty insensitive to me.
Mhm.
Because what happens is when someone tells you that you're being insensitive, you think, well, you're insensitive too.
Right. Automatic.
Yes.
That's
so,
automatic.
Yes. So you have to really raise, that's the hustle in it. You have to avoid just going for where you've been hurt.
Mm-hmm.
You stay in that person's pain,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can switch that position at some point.
As you state that, I feel and I know from experience, we've coached a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
separately and together. We've coached a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
We've had the opportunity to hear from men and women at the same time. And what my data shows me and what research shows is that women are very good about expressing how they feel about something. And what I find is that in those times in which they are wanting to express, to attune, to make something better, to feel understood, to really feel loved,
Mm-hmm.
to really, when a woman is bringing you a bid and a feeling, she's really
And when
creating
she's
an
bringing
opportunity
you the
to
bid,
feel
you
loved.
still have a window.
Right.
Because
There is a
when
window.
she stops bringing the bid,
Mhm.
you're in real trouble.
You're in real trouble. Yeah. And that shows that goes with a lot of things, that what it looks like, because they just, steadily just do less. Then they do nothing. And then you're
What do you
looking
mean
at
by
it.
do less?
They just stop caring slowly.
Okay.
They stop the thoughtfulness.
You don't mean physical acts.
It's
You mean
just
they
a
do
physical. They
yes,
just do
they
less
engage
emotionally. They do less emotionally. They do nothing physically. They do hardly anything mentally. They do less. And you're just like, it doesn't matter if you're do more, if you're operating in all three or trying to. The foundation's been laid where the belief has switched, where they've lost hope, so they quit. Now, my mistake, and the mistake I feel that men don't get, is not hearing those cues. Not
Yes.
like hearing, like it didn't happen by just happenstance how it happened. It happened because, guess what? As men, you, me, all of us allowed it to happen. When the bid is coming in, guys, and they're making an opportunity, they're giving you an opportunity, a real opportunity for you to really listen and have the emotional ability to really feel what they're trying to give you. Just take time in that, just to allow them to express themselves, where you're not giving any reaction, no eye roll, no deep breath, no sigh, no look away, not why are we doing this right now? Like, because when that happens, it just happens. Be organic enough and be patient enough to allow her to feel like, hear me, man, allow her to feel like you're making an attempt to be different. And then when that opportunity is happening for you to be different, here's key and here's vital. Here's something that's key and vital. Don't make it about you stating how you want to potentially my goodness, potentially relate to her with your own situation. That's where the mistake is made, where she's coming to you and she's giving you the bid about how she feels about something, and then you try to tie in and relate.
I have
how
a
you
really
feel.
fun story
Yeah,
about that.
perfect, yeah.
And I'm just going to put I'm just going to blast.
Okay, who are you
It's
blasting?
not even you. So
That's
don't
okay if
even
you
worry
do.
about
I mean,
it.
it's okay. It's all right.
So when I had my daughter, which was a very, 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 very long time ago,
Beautiful.
while
You're so
I was
beautiful.
in tremendous labor was very different then as it is now. They made you dilate to like 300
Yeah,
before you
right,
had
right,
an
right,
epidural.
right.
My then husband,
Mm-hmm.
while I was in massive, excruciating pain,
Mm-hmm.
thought that it might be a good idea to tell me of when he had gone through a medical procedure and had a lot of pain.
Yeah.
Now,
This is
granted, my
good.
patience level under the amount of pain that I was in was 0.
Mm-hmm.
But I can assume that even if I weren't in that amount of pain,
Mm-hmm.
it still lands as, I don't give 2 craps about
Mm-hmm.
how you felt through your medical procedure
Mm-hmm.
while I'm delivering
time.
this child into
That's
the
good.
world.
That's good.
I don't need to hear. I need you to
Mhm.
be with me here right
Mhm.
now where I am. Not to then say, well, I can, so many men think that they're relating.
Yeah.
They're saying, oh, I'm just giving you
Yeah.
I'm just relating
That's
to you.
what we think.
But
Yeah.
the thing is, we're saying that
You're
is
not
relating.
relating, but we think we're relating. I'm guilty of it myself. I mean, we just do this. We think that, we're trying to create a level of sensitivity, but the sensitivity, man, is in the quietness and listening to the
And the
point and the
curiosity
curiosity
of
of expounding,
understanding.
asking a question in that level of bid and feeling that she might believe that you're really listening. And what happens when you're really listening, man? Guess what? I'm talking to me. We're attuning. When we're really listening, we're attuning. And they feel that. That feeling is a vibration. And
I'll
that
tell you
vibration
what
is
attunement is not.
Mhm.
You cannot attune while you're on your cell phone.
That's true.
You cannot attune
Yeah.
while you're watching TV.
That's right.
You cannot attune
Mm-hmm.
when you are completely thinking,
On the
because
computer.
people think they're multitasking,
But you're not.
but you're not. And so when someone's put the effort in to really express themselves,
Mhm.
and then the other person says, well, go ahead and say that again. It's
Mhm.
like, I'm not even in the same emotional space that I was in, really
That's so
bearing
good.
my heart to you and
Mhm.
how I was feeling.
Mhm.
And then you want to repeat that? No, thanks.
No.
That's where women say, that's
I'm
okay.
checked out. Yeah.
And you know what they
That's
do?
fine.
That's fine. And then
That's
they go
okay.
and call their girlfriend
Death.
and say,
Death. Yeah.
it doesn't work. So, there's a lot of things that we may fall into just out of habit or our own self-comfort,
Mhm.
or what feels good to us, or
Mhm.
avoidance, or all
Mhm.
of those things. But in the end, they won't serve. They
Mm-mm.
won't serve the marriage.
Mm-mm.
When you're just
That's
only
good, Tia.
serving yourself, you're not serving the relationship.
And the relationship should always come first.
And look what time it is.
Look what time it is. There's a couple of things that I just want. We're at the top of the hour. It's 5:00. I want to read off just a couple of things that are just really important with respect. And men really, instead of just desiring respect from your wife and your significant other, give the respect. Give enough respect that which would allow more tolerance. Even when you both have already grown apart, love can be reminded again if you both respect one another. When you have respect for your marriage and your relationship, you won't be tempted to do things that might damage your relationship.
Yes.
What is going to damage your
So
relationship?
you're not only respecting
Mm-mm.
the
Right.
spouse,
Respect-
you're respecting the relationship.
And in that relationship, respect the moment for the bed. So respect the fact that she is trying to believe in you again, that you would take off your blue headphones and listen to pink headphones, and respect the fact that she's making that attempt right then and there for you to be able to listen to her with being in her emotional need and not your emotional need from not your experience. Well, Marion, what are you saying? Don't tie in your experience thinking that your experience is going to relate to her. She doesn't care about your experience. What she cares about is the ability that you have emotionally to be curious enough to relate to her emotion outside of your experience. Number 5 would be respect really builds and nurtures trust. Tia talked about earlier that, love is trust. And in that, give yourself enough opportunity.
Consistent good behavior.
Yeah.
over time.
Which would be
over
which
again.
would nurture that trust. And that's a level of respecting who she is, respecting her for the fact that a woman always chooses a man, and she chose you, dude. She chose you, dude. You didn't choose your wife, your significant other. She chose you. So respect her enough to know that anomaly has happened and she was actually looking at you. And you couldn't even believe she was looking at you when it went down. You were believing, oh my God, she's probably talking to another guy. No, she's talking to you. Respect that enough to want to attune to her emotionally, physically, spiritually, and mentally, for her to feel like you're really listening to her. And then all of those things.
Love themselves enough. Love yourself enough to want the best relationship.
Yeah, love yourself enough to want the best relationship, but want the marriage and the purpose of the marriage over your own need. Like the purpose of the marriage and you guys being together, there's something to that God wants to edify for everybody to see. Respect that. And lastly, most definitely, forgive in your level of love and attuning.
We'll have to do a show about forgiveness,
Yeah.
because forgiveness is very complex.
It is, but
To
it
say
must
to forgive.
it but
is
it
very
must
different.
here's the thing. That's what the Bible says, that love conquers a multitude of sins. So in that conquering and loving enough to forgive, it's worth it in what you want to create.
Yes.
what you want to create. So guys, you know what? You're listening to Coupling with the Carlins.
Or you were.
Or you were listening. That's good.
We're closing it up.
Yeah, you were listening to Coupling with the Carlins. We're here every single Friday from 4 to 5 p.m. You're listening to Coupling with the Carlins every single Friday. KBOB 89.9 FM, Black on Black Community Radio T, live streaming 24/7. KBOB 899.com.
Have a date night.
Have a
It's
date night, guys. I
Friday.
hope that this was very helpful. I have an oldie but a goodie for you. Because, guys, I will say this as men, you know what? Loving our wives and significant other, whatever you do outside the bedroom, it makes for good, opulent acceptance and love in the bedroom. You know this, so I have this for you. I have Meeting in the Bedroom. This is an oldie but a goodie. Silk, Meeting in the Bedroom. Have a great weekend, everybody. Cheers and God bless. We'll
Have
see
a
you
great
next Friday.
weekend.
We'll see you next Friday.
Looking at my rollie, girl, I see it's almost time. Oh yeah, oh yeah. I hope you're getting ready, girl.